For today's problem, we are going to take the integral of x plus 1 over the square root of x. So the way the problem is currently written, you could look at the numerator as f of x is equal to x plus 1. And you could call the denominator g as a function of x is equal to the square root of x. Square root of x. So what you're really taking the integral of is f of x over g as a function of x dx. And this is a composite function, and this is a little bit more complicated than necessary to evaluate this problem. So what we can instead do is simplify it by rewriting it so it looks more like a polynomial. So you would take this denominator, square root of x, and you would distribute it to the two subterms above it. And we could rewrite it, and it would become x over the square root of x plus 1 over the square root of x. Now the square root of x, that's equal to x to the 1/2 power. So we can rewrite this further and call it x over x to the 1/2 plus 1 over x to the 1/2 power dx. So at this point, we just apply exponential properties. This is really x to the first. So this becomes x to the 1/2 power because x to the first minus 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. So it becomes x to the 1/2 power. And we have an x to the 1/2 in the denominator, so that becomes x to the minus 1/2 dx. So at this point, we can now apply the reverse power rule when we're integrating because it looks more like a polynomial. Now, polynomials require exponents that are positive whole numbers as exponents. These are obviously fractional, so they're not technically polynomials, but it looks similar. So we can add 1, and this becomes 3/2. We can add 1 here, and this becomes 1/2. So then when we integrate it, it has the new power of 3/2, but you multiply it by the reciprocal. So you get 2/3 x to the 3/2 power plus reciprocal of 1/2 is 2, x to the 1/2 power plus c. And at this point, we're essentially done, but we can clean it up a little by factoring out the 2/3. So we can factor out this 2/3 by actually, we'll do it this way. We'll say 2/3 times 3/2, that's equal to 1. So I'm not changing the value of this expression. And then I can take this factor of 3/2 and then distribute it to each of these subterms. And then I'll rewrite it up here so we have more room. So this becomes 2/3, and then the 3/2 and the 2/3 cross off, so you're left with x to the 3/2 power plus 3/2 times 2 is 3, so you're left with 3x to the 1/2 power plus c. And we can actually simplify it even further. We can factor out this x to the 1/2 power. So when we do that, you'd be left with 2/3, and this is square root of x because x to the 1/2 power, which we already established here, is equal to the square root of x. And then you're just left with x plus 3 plus c. And we're done.